All right, folks, it's finally here. This is my review of the 2024 Norco sight. I've had this bike for almost 4 months now, and it's taken me a little longer to push this review out, but here it is. I wanted to make sure I tried it in all of its configurations before I gave my opinion to all of you folks. We're also here at Camp Fortune on the same trail where I filmed the 2020 Norco sight review video almost 4 years ago now, so that's pretty cool. So we're gonna see how this bike stacks up on the same trail that I reviewed that bike on. So the sight is touted as Norco's all-mountain offering. That means this bike is essentially built to go up, built to go down, and all around.
The most notable feature about this current generation of Norco sight is the fact that it is a high pivot. This means that the rear wheel goes backwards when the bike goes into its travel, making for a much smoother ride than your traditional 4-bar setup.
I swallowed a bug. We're having the resurgence of mosquito season right now, and it's insane. Of course I didn't wear bug spray, and I'm a mosquito magnet, so kill me. The previous iteration of the sight was by far my favorite bike. I logged the most miles on it, and it just did everything really well. I never felt underbiked or overbiked. It was like the perfect sort of sweet spot bike for everything. I think Norco's done a great job of keeping that spirit alive in this bike as well. Looking at the specs of this bike, it's got a 160mm Fox 36 factory up front. It did come stock with a DH-X2 coil in the rear. I've since switched to a Float X just to give the bike a little bit more of a lively feel. I still throw the coil on for downhill days, but I definitely prefer it with the Float X, and I just want to make a note that Norco does spec some of the aluminum models with a Float X, so I don't think I'm departing too far from, you know, what they want their bike to feel like. That rearward axle path is really nice when you're going through the chunky stuff, and the anti-squat actually gets higher when you shift into your easier gears, so there's less pedal bob, which is really cool, and it's super noticeable on the trail. Taking care of the braking, we've got some SRAM code silvers. We have a 1-up 210mm dropper post. Yes, it's a 210. This is my first 210, which is really cool. So there's lots of room for me to move around on the bike. We also have SRAM GX Eagle transmission, taking care of the shifting. I did swap the stock wheels for some Hope Fortis 30s. I got these from Energy Enterprises. They are one of the partners for the channel, so thank you guys. I'm also running Cushcore in the rear. I was running it in the front too, but I took it out to just sort of lighten up the bike a little bit. All right, so let's talk about the geometry of the new sight. I'm 5'8", and I'm riding an S3. So that means it has a 472.5mm reach, which is a little bit longer than I'm used to, but I'm getting used to it. And it's got a 64-degree head angle, just like the previous generation sight. It has 435mm chainstays, and it has a 77-degree C-tube angle. The wheelbase is also 1249, but overall, the longer bike feels really stable on the descents, and that's super confidence inspiring. All right, let's talk about climbing. I say this every time, but like every all-mountain / enduro bike that exists nowadays, you're pretty hard pressed to find a bike that's like not comfortable to climb. Does it climb well? Well, heavy, long, slack, you know, you can add up those variables yourselves, but yeah, really depends whether you like climbing. I personally enjoy climbing, so I find this bike to be, you know, pretty great. And like I mentioned, the anti-squat value changes depending on what gear you're in. So if you're in, like, I think the top 3 easy gears, the anti-squat gets higher, so there's less pedal bob, but you still get quite a bit of traction, so it feels relatively efficient. So you're not like squishing all the way up the trail. So my only real gripe about this bike while climbing is the sheer length of it. At, you know, almost 1250mm wheelbase, that's a good 30 mils longer than what I'm used to. So yeah, it is a bit of a handful in the turns. I also forgot to mention that I put on a 35mm stem. The bike comes with a stock 40, and the Ride-A-Line setup guide tells me to use a 40, but I just found reach was way too long, so the 35mm stem. Actually, I think it's a Chromag 32mm stem, so the 32mm stem just felt really good. So something to consider if you're sort of on the outskirts of the sizing, or you're in between sizes. Something to consider. Man, climbing this trail now is an absolute breeze. I think I noticed too with the air shock is it is better for climbing. Feels less stuck to the ground, but just feels a little bit more sprightly, which I like. You know, on a bike that weighs 37 pounds and change, have a little bit of get up and go on not only the descents is a bonus for sure. So obviously this bike really comes to life on the descents. The long wheelbase and long slack geometry really makes the bike kind of super stable and extremely confidence inspiring. Like, you're never gonna feel underbiked on this bike. And I think this bike really leans more into the enduro side of the all mountain spectrum than the sort of trail and all mountain side with that sort of added weight. Oh my god, ruts. Yeah. But, you know, what you lack in all day pedalability is really like an ultra stable, ultra capable bike. So if you're willing to live with that, then this bike is a great option for you. I love trying to talk and ride things like this. It is so dark in here, the footage probably looks terrible, but what can you do? Woo! Oh mama. Oh. But yeah, this thing also, for a mullet, because it's high pivot, carries speed like nothing else. The rearward axle pad definitely sort of negates any kind of hang-ups or slowdowns you get from like a 4-bar mullet, which I think I've said in other videos, but yeah, this is rad. Let's go ride a downhill trail now. Oh, hero dirt. Yeah, this bike, if you do a lot of lift access stuff, you enduro race or whatever, throwing a Fox 38 or a RockShox Zep on this thing would go pretty hard, I think. 36 feels great, and it does good to keep the weight down, but I think having something a little burlier could really make this bike like ultra sendy. Woo! Ew! Let's go do old Q cup into smell my finger, get a good variety of steeps in there. Yeah, I think for me at least, mullet is the winning combo for this bike. It's 29er, it's fast, but it's longer, it's a little heavier. Yeah, less maneuverable slightly, but still good. Yeah, I think I would, you know, keep this in a mullet like 80% of the time. Sick. Let's go ride some steep tech. Well, tech flow. It used to be a lot techier. It's gonna be a little greasy. Can I keep it this way? Oh, yes, okay. Oh, weird lines, okay. Oh, there's a branch in there. Okay, well, that was just a little scary. But yeah, again, this bike, the stability is so confidence inspiring. Like even on that section, like I had to slow down, kind of stop. But the bike just basically stays upright, which is really cool. Woo! Oh, oh. Yeah, if you can hang on, this bike will do pretty much anything you want it to do. It's just unbelievable for something with, you know, this small travel numbers. Whew. Right on. So to conclude, let's ask the question, has Norco made the ultimate all-mountain bike? I think they're awfully close. The first version of the site that I rode in 2020 was fantastic. This bike is also fantastic, but in different ways. The new geometry and sizing convention may have some people finding themselves in between sizes, so that's something to take into account. Also, I do think this bike specifically skews a lot more towards the enduro side versus the trail all-mountain side. You know, it does ride a lot bigger than the travel numbers suggest, which, you know, depending on your preferences, can be a good or a bad thing. Personally, I really like the stability that this bike offers. I never felt underbiked on it, even on some of the gnarliest trails. It does jump really well. I think as a mullet, it's fantastic for me. As a 29er, it's a bit big, it's a bit long. All that to say though, this bike is phenomenal and I can't wait to see what Norco comes up with next. Thanks for tuning into the video. Please like the video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you out on the trail. Hopefully that was in focus.